We're off to a hairy start. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Looks like we're live. Hello. Is anybody out there? Oh, hello. Chip is here. Chip says, wow. First comment to the broadcast. David Dunn. What's up? Marcio. Hi, guys. Oh, what's your name? Scadam. Scadam. That's kind of similar to the last name of the author of this book that I'm going to be reviewing here today. I am here. Oh, let me first say hi. Welcome to A Moment in Time with Taylor. I am a live streamer. I go live every single day, 7 days a week on Periscope and on Twitch. I also stream here on YouTube sometimes as well. I'm right now multicasting on both YouTube and Periscope. So it's good to see you guys wherever you're tuning in from, even if you're on the replay. Thank you for being here. Thanks for watching and checking this out. I hope to create a lot of value for you in this replay. Yeah, are you new to Telescope, Chip? Earn your earn, what's up? Good to see you guys. Did you catch the 12-hour stream last night? I wanted to say a big thank you to everyone that came through my 12-hour broadcast last night on Twitch from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. Straight 12 hours of content. We did mostly gaming and also had a lot of fun with some cosplay. So I wore 13 costumes in 12 hours. And am I glitching for you guys? My internet's been a little touchy today, so hopefully you guys can see and hear me okay. It seems to be freezing on my end. Hi, Cher. How are you, Cher? Thanks for inviting your followers. Hi, Hizo. Oh, no. Is the internet being glitchy again? Can you guys see me? Let me speed test my internet here, because if I am glitching, you might not be able to hear me and answer my question. You're tired? Yeah, my download speed's super fast. Let's check upload speed. Yeah, it's like freezing. It looks good to you, Ern? Is it freezing for anybody? It looks totally fine to you guys? Why is it freezing on my phone? Yep, upload speed looks good. My download speed is almost 900. We see you, but I can't see any comments. I think some Android users do have that issue, but it's fine. Okay, so nobody seems to be reporting any kind of freezing that I'm seeing here. Look what I got. I mean, I'll just get to the content anyway, I guess, but kind of weird. Kind of weird. See, it keeps freezing like that. It's good now. And it was not good. I'm not even on Wi-Fi, though, on my phone. That's why I know that it must be what I'm putting out on the stream. Yeah, it still seems to be frozen. Good here? Okay, then let me get into it. Sorry, guys, I don't know. It's going to be very distracting to me, but I'm just going to take your word for it and guess that the replay of this will be fine for everybody. Okay, so this book talks about, let's look at the actual title, the cover page here. So it's called Balanced and Barefoot. It's by Angela Hanscom. And it says here how unrestricted outdoor play makes for strong, confident, and capable children. And I love that so much because I am a new step parent and I'm always looking for ways to add to the children's lives. You know, as a step parent, if you are one or know anyone, you don't want to like be getting in the way of development or impeding development of the children. You want to enhance and add and contribute to the family dynamic as much as you can, you know? So for me, that's reading parenting books and then kind of incorporating them into the parenting styles of their biological parents. Mark, thank you for the super hearts, and of myself as well. So this book was pretty, it thinks a lot differently about play and about how children should be free to play than I've ever been exposed to before. And Mark, thank you for these super hearts. Thank you so much for super hearts of the broadcast. Thank you, Berto. Yes, we hit 900 followers on Twitch last night. So thank you to all the new followers we have over there. And thank you again to everyone who stopped by our 12-hour stream. We had so much fun. Hi, Simple. How's it going? Hey. You got your 15th and 16th second. Oh my gosh, that's crazy, David. Yeah, we're almost on a new season. So you'll get it. Just keep grinding it out. I only have 4 wins and I play a lot. Solo wins anyway. Okay, so here are there's 3 keywords to this. So the importance is of unrestricted outdoor play. Unrestricted outdoor play. So unrestricted is important because that means freedom, taking away a lot of the rules and the boundaries. Outdoor obviously means getting outside to play rather than inside. And then the third is play and the importance of play. And I am a psychology student, and I've learned a lot about I took a child psychology class. So in that class, they talk about the importance of play and different types of play and how important it is to child development. And that's touched on in this book. So the author is an occupational therapist who has lots of experience and works with children of all ages and conditions, and she runs a place called Timber Nook, which is like a natural playground experience and play experience and a therapeutic modality that she utilizes, and she talks about that throughout the book as well. So we'll kind of talk about what that is. So first she starts talking about the issues that we're seeing with children that are on the rise that weren't really necessarily around as much or even maybe at all back in the really in the last 100+ years, the differences between children of that day and age and the children that we see now. So certain things are on the rise, like ADD, ADHD, behavioral challenges, emotional management challenges, strength. Children nowadays are much weaker than they used to be even in the 1900s. She said that she had seen a photo. It was from 1900, and it was a bunch of boys on one of the first playgrounds in the country. And it was just basically like a metal beam, like maybe, 10 feet off the ground. And the only way to get up it was to shimmy yourself up a metal pole. And then it was a bunch of boys, and they were all sitting at the top of this pole. So it's imagine just two poles and then a pole across, and they're all balancing and sitting on the pole, and they had to pull themselves up using solely, almost exclusively upper body strength, also core strength, and how the children of today in general and on average aren't really capable of doing that, and how there's a movement right now for the requirements of that. I don't know if you guys had to do it in school, but I had to take the presidential fitness test, I think it was called. So it's a standardized test of health and physical fitness that we had to do in gym class. I think a lot in my elementary school years, maybe all throughout high school, I don't really remember, but we had to sit and see how far we could reach forward and how high we could jump and how many pull-ups we could do and how many crunches or sit-ups we could do, push-ups, different things. I don't remember the whole test, but we had to do a bunch of different things, and they would kind of make sure that we had reached the requirements. And the requirements of the 1980s, so that's only going back 40 years, are, it's like the kids, the average from the 1980s is well above the average results of the modern children. So we're trying to figure out, why are our kids getting weaker, softer, having a more difficult time managing their emotions, handling sensory integration, having trouble with focus and attention, sitting still for long periods of time. What could possibly be contributing to this, and what can help? How can we stop that in their tracks? They tested you in front of everyone, yes. They did. You got PTSD when I said presidential fitness test? Yeah, so a lot of us are in that same category where we're a lot weaker than people were 100 years ago. And why is that? And what can we do to kind of slow that progression and hopefully even reverse it? Wow, Daniel. Okay. Wow. Cell phones and tablets, perhaps, yeah, it could definitely be technology. We don't necessarily have to go outside of our homes to get entertainment or stimulation, sensory stimulation. Climbing the rope, yeah. Hey, Banana, how are you? Beautiful. Hi. Okay, so that's chapter 1. She's talking about some problems that we see on the rise. As an occupational therapist, she gets a lot of students, or kids in general, that she needs to give therapeutic services to and try to help them with these challenges that they're facing. So she's been studying it for a while. Then and now this is kind of, I don't know exactly where all these things in the book are located, so I'm not unfolding this chronologically exactly, but this is my summary, recap, and review of this book. I really, really, really enjoyed the book. I thought it was really well put together. It was really easy, quick read to kind of blow through. A lot of anecdotal things in there, but you definitely get the gist and the point very easily and quickly, and that's what I love about a book. Just spit it out, give it to me. What's the most important thing I need to know? And it's summed up right on the cover page. Unrestricted outdoor play. Done. That's all you really need to know. The rest is kind of details and nitty-gritty bits. So she talks about how a lot of learning and development happens through movement, and that kids really, they instinctively know the amount of sensory input and resistance they need to develop and to get the skills that they desire and need to be healthy, balanced adults. And a lot of times as adults, we try to impede that. We try to stop that. You know, they're jumping off of the couch over and over and over again, and we're like, don't do that. The couch could tip over. You could get hurt. You know, it gets us nervous. We never want our children to get hurt. They're seeing how high off the stairs they can jump. So first they're jumping off 2 stairs, then 3 stairs, then 4 stairs, and 6 stairs. We're kind of like, all right, be careful, be careful. How many times do you say that to your kids? I say it to my 7 kids. Careful, oh, careful, oh, be careful. Just be careful. You know, I so much. And now after reading this book, I'm like, I try not to say that so much, because we have to trust our kids to some extent to know what they need. And jumping and moving and going upside down and climbing, all these things are really important for developing our bodies, for developing strength. So strength like core strength, postural control, upper body strength, you know, strength throughout our entire body, but not just physical. These things also help us to be mentally and emotionally stronger as well, because if we do get hurt, which we all get hurt sometimes, right? Kids, adults, we're going to get hurt. There's no amount of someone telling us to be careful that's going to prevent us from getting hurt, mentally or physically. So we get hurt, and the less we experience having gotten hurt, the less we know what to do when it happens. So if a kid gets a bump or a bruise, or, you know, gets like a minor, you know, nobody wants their kid to get a traumatic brain injury. So you want them to be safe and informed. But if they're jumping off of the stairs, yeah, they might bang into the wall. You know, you might even be more concerned about your own home and what might, you know, what damage they might cause to something that's not even them. So even sometimes it's like, oh, careful, because we don't want them to break something in the house more so than break themselves. But of course we don't want them to get hurt. But your kid shouldn't, if your kid like jumps off a swing, you know, hopefully, depending on how severe it is, they shouldn't really be like breaking bones doing this. Their body should be strong enough to handle a little rough and tumble, and they should really only be getting like bruises, scrapes, cuts, you know, normal bumps and bruises that kids get from playing, and adults get as well from interacting with the environment and bumping into stuff. And when they get hurt and they realize that it's okay and that pain is temporary, and here are some tools and things that we can use to bounce back from pain, is resilience and emotional management and confidence and security, and knowing that we can get hurt and still be fine. We'll be okay, right? It'll heal and it'll be okay. And that's a really, really, really important lesson that we prevent our kids from learning by keeping them safe in little bubbles. Thanks, Tainted. You tell yourself to be careful all the time. So let them jump on the couch. Maybe. I think give them more Ritalin. So it's important to let them know what the risks are, right? So our job is to kind of let them know the risks that they're taking if we don't think they're capable of understanding. So like I'll tell the kids, so my cousin, when I was younger, I remember she was jumping on her mom's bed and she jumped off. I don't know if she intended to jump off or if she fell off, but she didn't stick the landing, and she smashed her face into the entertainment table of the TV stand in the room, and this is a little graphic, but her bottom teeth went through her lip, and they had to go to the hospital and glue her lip shut. Now, she is fine, and that experience did make her tougher, stronger, and more resilient, knowing like I can literally bite my lip off and be fine. Like she looks fine. Like it's not like this big scar. I mean, she might have a scar that she's aware of. I've never noticed any kind of scar there, anything like that. She was little. They kind of heal quick. They don't really scar so much. And I'm sure she either never jumped on the bed again or never fell into the entertainment table again. I never heard about that happening again. We learn from our mistakes, especially the really painful ones. But I told the kids that story so that they were aware of hard furniture around that they could potentially bash their faces into, so that they avoid it. Avoid the coffee table, avoid the TV stand. For us, you can jump off the back of the couch and there's really nothing there besides the floor that you could get hurt on, right? You can land wrong and you can get hurt, but hopefully nothing severe, nothing permanent, life-threatening, something that's going to paralyze someone. That's parents' worst fear, is like I'm going to be watching my kid and they're just going to become paralyzed, and you're going to feel guilty for not stopping them from the dangerous activity. And these things do happen. And because these things happen, because people do get severely injured, rarely, but sometimes, it has a ripple effect on everyone, because nobody wants to have that happen to their children. It's important to try to prevent those things, but it's also important to realize that we can't prevent everything, and that sometimes freak accidents occur, and sometimes people get really hurt, and it's not your fault for allowing your child to explore their environment and to jump off the couch. You know, there's really no way that you could have known that they were going to land on their head, break their neck. And, you know, and also to understand that it's very rare for something like that to happen. Even if you heard about it on the news that it happened to some random kid in Idaho, the chances of it also happening to any other kid or a bunch of kids, a high enough percentage of kids to even really be relevant, is very, very, very rare. Horrible, but unlikely. Just like a lot of the things that we live in fear of in our day-to-day life. Surround yourself with hard furniture to keep away kids. That's funny, but if you think about it, this is also why the outdoor element is important, because the outdoor, you can get hurt, you can get splinters, bug bites, you know, pricker bush, there's things to get hurt on, but you don't really have like hard right angles. You know, nature doesn't really make like a desk with this like pointy corner. You know, yeah, a rock could have like an edge, or, you know, but even still, it's really not like a corner of a table. Like, you know, some of the man-made things are so geometrically like, you know, not kid friendly, where the outdoor environment usually is more giving. There's more give, you know, even if you land on like a tree stump, you know, it's got a little bit of softness to it, wood and dirt and grass, as opposed to like concrete and pavement and some of these things that really don't have give and will hurt you more than nature. So the outdoor element removes a lot of that risk, hopefully, some of it, right? We cannot protect our kids from pain. You know, we have to accept that. We have to realize that pain is part of the developmental process, and pain is a really great teacher. And yeah, we don't want them to only learn the hard way and through pain, but it's going to happen, and it's not always, you know, it's not you doing something wrong if your kid gets hurt. Some people are very like, you know, they don't want to be judged and bringing their kid into the hospital. Oh God, I wasn't watching him closely enough. You know, he climbed a tree and fell out, and like, I'm a terrible parent for letting him climb a tree. Climbing a tree is a great, great, great experience for kids, and most kids don't fall out and get severely injured from it. In feng shui, it's called death or poison points. Oh, interesting. I'm not familiar with that, actually. The little flap between your nostrils had to be stitched back into place when you were a kid. Oh my God, what happened? What happened to your, what is that, septum? Your septum? All right. So for us to expect kids to sit still for extended periods of time when their bodies need input, it needs sensory input, it needs vestibular input, so that they can develop balance and strength in these supportive postural muscles, they need to be moving, and they need to do that in order to develop and function. And it also, not only does it develop physical strength, but it develops social emotional skills. So it helps them to manage their emotions, and it helps them to socialize with other kids and interact better and more healthy and balanced when they are able to move around freely, and as well as cognitive function in general and their ability to recall information or to assimilate, you know, new concepts. Really, Cher. Hi, Mark. Yeah, it's that empathy thing that you have. So what she had said was that our lectures, our lessons that we're giving to kids should really only be like 10 minutes. We should be able to sum up our concept in 10 minutes and then do something hands-on to integrate the concept so that they can solidify that concept and really, and you're demonstrating it, right? So if you're teaching them 2 + 2 = 4, now you can take, let's say, balls, you know, you have 2 balls and then you have 2 more balls, and they can sit there and hold them. Okay, so grab 2, now grab 2 more. All right, how many do you have? And they're allowed to move around to the bucket where the balls are and interact with the other kids in the classroom and have a more integrated experience. And I know this is more common. This book is, I believe, 2016. So it's about 4 years old. So a lot of this information is coming to the surface. Playgrounds are changing, classrooms are changing. There's more movement being integrated, which is a really good, you know, step in the right direction. But for us to expect our children to sit still, sit down, and be still for a long period of time, and then to behave well and to not have difficulty managing their emotions and to be strong, is like these are two conflicting desires that you have. You want your kid to sit there and be a potato, but then you want them to be like strong and capable and effective. Those two things can't coexist. It's one or the other, unfortunately. I don't think it's unfortunate, but good to hear, Mark. She talks about the different systems, the different senses, and the body. So, and even the cognitive, like I said, cognitive function, social, emotional. She talks about the vestibular system. She talks about proprioception, so awareness of your body in place. So if my eyes are closed or whatever, I'm looking somewhere else, I know where my hands are. I'm aware of that. And babies don't have that. They develop this through experiences and through play and through movement of the body. So all these things are important to be fully developed. And nature gives a really great environment for these things to happen, because nature is a really great way of stimulating all of our senses in a balanced and calm way. So the wind on our skin, the sun on our skin, the colors that we see, the feeling of the dirt or the sand on our hands, these things are not overwhelming to our senses. The sounds of birds or bugs, seeing a bug, touching a bug, it's a lot less intense for our senses than some of these man-made things, like a children's museum, which can be fine. Learning is great, but we try to, it's like we have this concept of kids like, oh, we can't entertain them enough. We need to be constantly entertaining them and stimulating them so that they're not thinking for themselves or creating or imagining their own worlds. It sucks creativity out of them when we give them a lot of structure and when we overwhelm their senses through things like bright, colorful, loud spaces. Have you ever been to one of those like trampoline parks, like the indoor trampoline places? They're loud. There's music, there's tons of kids in there running around. There's a lot of rules about what you can and cannot do. So even though it's good that they're able to run around and move their bodies in spaces like this, a lot of kids could be overwhelmed with their senses. And when we're overwhelmed with our senses, any of our senses, we tend to go into more of a, let's say, like a more primitive state. We're not really using the higher functions of our brain to remain calm, to manage our emotions, to make good, reasonable decisions. Instead, we kind of like go to a regressive state, like a childlike state, and behave, maybe have a tantrum in a child, and adults even have their own tantrums. And sometimes you can look and say, where was this person's senses? What sense was being overwhelmed? And a lot of times we're overwhelming our children's senses by thinking they need to be entertained. So we're constantly giving them something bright and shiny and loud to keep them entertained and occupied. But really what they need is just some like quiet time outside. And what's interesting, because outside is so quiet, I'm not talking about being near like a street, you're like, say, out in the woods or at the beach, it's pretty quiet. You have the sound of the waves, you have the sound of the wind, birds and stuff, but it's subtle sounds. Kids actually become more quiet outside because they don't have to yell over all of the noise that's coming into them. I see this with my stepsons. They yell. They're like yelling. And I'm like, why are they yelling? I used to do the same thing as a kid. I think a lot of times it's like, so we feel like there's a lot happening, so we're yelling over it. We want to be heard, so we're like yelling over the noise, even if it doesn't feel noisy to us as adults, because we've been so conditioned to filter out a lot of that noise. I teach meditation. You can actually get my meditation course. I'll put the link in here if you want it, if you want to learn how to meditate every day. I've learned about how noisy the world is. Sometimes I drive around in my car and I think, how did I ever drive around in my car with the music playing? Like, I'm already hearing so many things. All the cars driving by, the wind, I'm listening out for sirens, and just my own noises and sounds, internal mental sounds. And I'm like, oh my God, the music is like this other layer on top. It's like my nervous system can't get a break. It's processing so much incoming input and information that it's like, it's overwhelming. And so we live in a state of stress, generally as an American population, at least. It's like our normal state is a pretty high stress state. We very rarely are getting like calm, peaceful experiences. Nature is a great, great, great place to do that. And even just seeing nature, many of you probably heard this, even just seeing nature, even if it's on a screen, calms us. It has a calming effect. So even having plants in the classroom or having the kids at your home doing a garden, a garden is a great way. They're getting dirty. They're getting in, in the muck. They probably see a bunch of different kinds of bugs. They're learning how to care for and create a life. They're learning about work and commitment and dedication and patience. They're getting outside. I mean, little things like that are great ways. Instead of buying your kid a new video game, start a garden. I bet they'll like it. It's something different. Like you know what I mean? It's like they want to be exposed to new experiences and kind of flex and bend in new ways too, especially the younger they are. Typically, the more open-minded they might be. Banana, thank you so much for the super hearts. I appreciate you. Thank you. Bye, Paul. So see you later. You had to turn off your lane departure on your car. It beeps, the dash flashes, the steering wheel shakes. It was just too much. Yeah, sensory overload. Exactly. So she talks about how nature is this great way to teach kids to integrate their sensory experiences. So really, really, really cool stuff. So what I had written here that I like is freedom, safety, and support spur creativity. So some things that she just, kind of gives as ideas for rethinking playgrounds or even just play areas that you have your kids in. Make sure that they're, let me see if I can find the page that she talks about this on, because I don't want to miss anything. It's really, really, really good stuff. That's part of it too. There's a lot of really good stuff in here. Start a garden, rake leaves, playing games outside. Oh, so here's another thing. So a lot of kids are kind of overcommitted, right? So most kids go to school for a long period of their day. It's like a full-time job that they don't get paid for. They have to wake up early, oftentimes before they're ready to wake up, go to school, sit still and behave and follow all these rules all day long. And they have to go home and do their homework. And then as parents, we say, oh, we got to keep these kids occupied and we got to make sure that we're fostering their development, their creativity, and their learning. So we sign them up for music lessons and we sign them up for organized sports. And we go to all the birthday parties and all the things, and we keep them constantly going. So there's not really a whole lot of space for them to imagine and create and de-stress. So considering taking some of those things off of your child's plate, maybe having one thing that they do that's organized. It's not like it's a bad thing, but sometimes we overdo it, right? Well, like I know even with my stepsons, we've had them enrolled in 2 sports at once, and it was a lot. It's like one has like practice 2 times a week and then a game, and then another one is like the same thing, and it's just like every day of the week they have to do all this stuff. They have to wear the special uniform, and they have to go and they have to listen to all the rules, and they can't do this, and they can't go over that line, and they can't, and then they're like, and then there's also like comparison of skills, are they able to do this, like pull off the intention of the game and make a point, or are they like not doing as well compared to the others in their class? I mean, there's just so much to think about and process for them. They should have at least a few days. So what she suggests is having at least 2 to 3 hours every single day for them to get outside with no rules or limited rules or boundaries, right? So one rule, especially for young kids, is that wherever they are outside, they have to be able to see an adult. So they have to, if they're like, they can go pretty far as long as they can look back and see you, it's okay, right? You don't want them like going to the next neighborhood over and you don't know, and now you're, potential. Now, we're much more afraid of our kids getting kidnapped than we need to be, because kidnapping is not that common. I think it was something like the most common kidnappings are from one of the parents, right? There's a bad divorce, a messy divorce, and one parent like picks the kid up from school and like goes off with them. That's considered a kidnapping, but it's not like the kidnapping we're afraid of, right? We're not like, oh, don't walk to the next neighborhood because your dad might come pick you up. Maybe you are, maybe you're in an abusive relationship. Again, that's, not, I think most people are afraid of like, we see these like horrible news stories or these shows about these like predators that hunt down children and pick them up. And it's like, you could never forgive yourself for allowing your children to fall into a situation like that. What's best is to educate them about the potential that could happen. Explain to them there are sick people out there that, they want to hurt people. They enjoy hurting people, and they target children or women because they're weaker than them. And it's easier to overpower them and hurt them. So be prepared, be alert, be aware, and here's what to happen if you think you might be getting yourself into this situation. Prepare them for it. Don't act like it doesn't exist and try to protect them in this fake fantasy bubble where they don't know what the heck to expect or why you're so worried about them going out of your vision. But also realize that it's something like 13 kids per year in America that happens to. Now, our population is 300 million. And kids are roughly, let's say roughly half of that, maybe a little bit less. I think it's like at least 2 million kids. So 13 out of 2 million, your odds are pretty good that your kid's not going to get abducted. It could happen. You could be one of those 13, and it's horrible. And we hope that number is decreasing. So with awareness and with more things in place and people being aware and educating their kids and taking them to, martial arts classes and preparing them for stuff like this, it's less. It's less. Plus, we have better mental health services for people who might be abductors or kidnappers or in need mental help. We're in the safest society we've ever lived in. So sometimes people, because our news is also in our media, is now pervasive and we can hear about everything that ever happened in the world at any time, it can seem like, oh my God, this is pretty often. This is like a frequent thing that happens, but it's really not. It's just sensational media hype. It's interesting because it's so rare, because it stands out and it triggers emotion and fear and anger. So they report it, but it doesn't mean that it's like something that is gonna happen to your kid. It's pretty unlikely that it'll happen. I hope it doesn't happen, and I encourage you to try to prevent it, but realize that, letting your kid like bike to the person's house down the street, 9 times out of 10, actually a lot more often than that, almost 10 times out of 10, is going to be perfectly fine. They're going to be fine. Plus, they're going to love that independence, that freedom, that trust. Showing your kids that you trust them is a really, really powerful gesture, because kids don't feel trusted. We're constantly telling them, be careful, don't do that, don't say that, change this, don't go over here. They constantly need to be held by the hand and coaxed through life. We don't often say, like, you got this. Oh, you want a sandwich? Go make one. I've been trying to do this more with my stepsons. Like, oh, you want a sandwich? Like, you know how to make a sandwich? Go make a sandwich. And they're kind of like, oh, like, dude, like, you can make a sandwich. You're capable of this. And then it's like their sandwich is all messy, right? They made like a tuna sandwich. It was just like, it was a mess. Like, I was like sitting there going, okay, don't get involved. Don't get involved. Don't get involved. He'll ask you if he needs help. If he wants help, it'll be fine. Because he was so proud of it. He's like, I made this, like, this is my creation. It's like, looks terrible. The tuna's falling out of it. He hasn't quite figured it out yet. But he's proud of it. He made it. He did it. He's like independent. He did something. If he's hungry, he can now feed himself. This is an important lesson to learn as soon as possible, as soon as you're capable. Yeah, he's not going to cook a 5-course meal, but he can make himself a bowl of cereal and a sandwich. You know what I mean? And that's like, that gives them a little bit of independence and confidence, for sure. Your mom doesn't trust you anymore? If it makes the news, that means it's not ordinary and does not normally happen. Typically, yeah. And thank you for the super hearts. Hi, how are you? Hi, Tracy. Hi, guys. I hope you're enjoying this. I really, really enjoyed this book so much. I don't know what that guy's saying, but I'm just going to let it go for now. Okay. So she talks about how not only have playgrounds become more bright and colorful, plastic, like sensory crazy houses, but they've also become a lot less challenging and exhilarating for kids. And I know those of you who are parents out there have noticed this, because I have noticed this myself. They get bored of the playground pretty quickly, right? They go down the slide a couple times, they climb some stuff, and then they're like, I'm bored. Like, we go home because other things are more stimulating and exciting for me, like video games or something. Because the reality is, and some of you guys who are old enough remember, slides used to be longer. They used to be more dangerous. It used to be more like, whoo, like I could fall off of this and get hurt. Like I'm reaching a much faster speed as I go down the slide. It's like, I want to go down this slide a lot because it's giving you this great sensory input and vestibular input so that your body can work on balance and support and strength. And you can learn that, like, you can do it and you'll be okay. So even though you get that, like, oh, that adrenaline, that fear, like, oh, I'm going really fast, I'm like flying off the end of the slide, that you're okay and you're fine. You see all your other friends doing it. It builds up confidence and strength. So now the slides are shorter and nobody feels like, oh, yay, look at me, I can do the big slide. Like, because the slide is small and like it's not that exciting for kids over the age of like 5. And that sucks because that's really what they need. They need to be pushing themselves so that there's some resistance so that they can strengthen and develop and continue to grow. Has anybody noticed? I barely noticed this until she said it in the book. There's no seesaws anymore. Like, I never see seesaws at playgrounds. I've been to a bunch of different playgrounds, no seesaws. Like, or if there is, they're like these little tiny, like, and they're like they have like springs on them, so they're not even off the ground. They just like kind of like go up and down on a spring a little bit, which is like, okay, it does some kind of sensory input for the kid, but where are the goddamn seesaws? It's like some kid got hurt on a seesaw, or they were just like, oh, too many people are like can get hurt on this. But that was like, not only was that like really like a fun and challenging, exhilarating experience, but it requires two to operate, so it develops social skills as well. You have to coordinate and sync up and be able to pull this off in order to make it do what you want it to do. So that was interesting. Merry-go-rounds, like those things that you like, remember the metal things that you like hold onto the pole and like run around as fast as you could around and then jump onto it and you just get like super dizzy? I hated that thing when I was a kid, but I was also kind of like a soft, weak kid, and I'm a soft, weak adult now, I feel like. And I realized like my mom didn't read books like this. She didn't know, right? I'm not like mad at her for not like exposing me to the outdoors more often, but I know I would be stronger, tougher, more confident, more skilled if I was playing outside a lot more than I did as a kid. I was inside too much, way too much. And I don't want that for the kids of today, you know? Swings with long chains, yep, taller and longer swings. Less rules related to swings and other things. So remember we used to go on our bellies? Like we would go on our bellies and swing, right? And be like, wee, like feels like you're flying. Or we would jump off the swings, right? Or we would twist. You like twist the swings, you know, you like twist up the chain and then let it go and like untwist and it spins you around. All 3 of those things not allowed at like all playgrounds in America at this point. Pretty much all of them, if not all of them. You're not allowed to jump off the swing. You're not allowed to twist the swing. You're not allowed to go on it on your stomach. You're only allowed to sit on it and swing. That's all. And that's like, oh my God, like we're stifling what these kids know they need. Like they want to do it because they know they're ready and they want to challenge themselves and they want to feel like they want their bodies, the liquid of their inner ear to like get spun around and to get messed with so that they can realize, oh, even if I feel like I'm spinning out of control, eventually it calms and rights and I feel good and strong. And then you can handle things like that metaphorically and physically better. Swings make you sick now. That was the best growing up, yeah. Used to make out with girls on the swing. What's happening, Imp? What's going on? You've never seen an actual seesaw. Oh my God, we only broke our ankles on seesaws. I never got hurt on a seesaw. If I could be a kid again, grow enough to fight a bear. Oh my God. Endorphin rush, yeah, absolutely. And kids could play on a playground for a long time. The playground had rocks as ground covering. Yeah, Scott. Yeah, me too. The swings, yeah, it was like those white, like rocks, right? I'm pretty sure. Now it's like mulch. But still, I mean, that's fine. Mulch, you know, we don't want kids to get hurt. So if we can put a softer material down that's still pretty natural, great. You know, mulch over rocks. Great. Now that less kids will get hurt. Awesome. People were run over by merry-go-rounds. They're fine. They'll be okay. Taught the boys all 3 of those things. They do it on the swings. Go so fast you almost flip over. Yeah, going really high in the swing. I think they can still do that. You know, when you go like so high in the swing, it like hiccups. Like the swing like kind of like crimps at the top a little. It's like, and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna go over the top. Yeah, you always think you're gonna go over the top. My sister used to do underdog, we called it, where she was older than me. She would go under me, like run under me and like push me up really high and then I'd fall back, you know? I loved that when I was a kid. I doubt that's allowed. Wait, who's attacking you? What happened? Thanks, Faith. So yeah, all these interesting things. So making playgrounds more natural. She talks about ways, so colors, you know, greens, browns, tans, like more neutral, nature-based colors are better for playgrounds because it doesn't overwhelm their visual senses so much. Like she's like, we don't need to color code playgrounds to show them where one slide ends and another begins. Like this one doesn't need to be red, this one doesn't need to be yellow. Like the entire thing could be made out of wood. And kids, like they actually have run experiments on like colorful playgrounds versus neutral colored playgrounds, and the kids on the neutral playgrounds are more calm. They get hurt less often. Like they're less like hyped up, like the Mountain Dew energy of like bright plastic slides. It's like, okay, it's more calm. It's just calmer energy, and it helps them to remain calmer. And when you take away the restriction, you say, kids, you know, you can do whatever you want. They work together. They create new games and new rules. And I see this happen. I've seen it happen with groups of kids, like at birthday parties and stuff, when they're allowed to just run around. Like, you're not like, okay, kids, now we're going to do this, and now we're going to do that, and now this. Let them do whatever they want. They make up these rules. They're running around like a big group. They're all like running around. And I'm like, I wonder what they're doing. It's like they're playing tag, but like anyone can tag anyone at any time. You know what I mean? Like, boom, now you're it. I don't know if I was it. Nobody touched me. Boom, you're it now. I'm running. Somebody touches me. I don't really care. I'm going to keep running. Like, they're, you know, it's like they don't really care about rules. It doesn't have to be like this structured, organized thing. Everyone's having fun. There's different age groups, different genders. Everyone's kind of doing their thing. Some of the boys were just racing each other, right? They start at one side and then they go, and they just, who can run faster? Like that kind of stuff. Actually, I have a good example of this. So I was reading this book, and I was reading about how jumping is a great way to move the lymph around in your body, and just like how movement in general is really good for you. So before we were getting in the car to leave Wildwood to come home, I said to one of the boys, I was jumping up and down outside of the car, and I was like, all right, let's jump a little bit before we get in the car because we're going to be in there for a while. So I'm jumping up and down, and now he doesn't jump up and down. Instead, he runs full speed down the block. I didn't tell him to, you know, move your body or run or anything. Like, he knew, right? As a young kid, he knew what his body needed. And it was like, I just gave him like that permission to just express, to move, you know? And it was like we had just come outside from the house, right? So he's outside, and immediately there's all this space, and he could just run if he wants to, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to exert that energy and feel like the wind on his skin, and just like his body moving and cranking out this power of just being like a rocket, you know? And he just ran, and then he came back, and then he got in the car, and it was just like, and that made me so happy. I really remember that because I was reading the book and I was like, see, she's right. Like, they do know what they need. They want it to be weird, right? So if everyone's like all calm getting into the car, they don't want to just run because they might get in trouble. When you give them just a little bit of like freedom to be like, you know, let's move our bodies before we get in. They like to be silly and dance and move. Dancing is a great way to do movement if you're inside. Playing in mud puddles is like, you know, we don't want our kids' clothes to get dirty. We don't want them to get dirty. Well, that's a really good tactile experience. You know, the feelings, our nerves, to be like, feel like the wet, cold mud, and then also to feel it dry on our skin and what that feels like, and just really experience life, you know? And now this was a book about kids and about child development, but I think the implications for adults is obvious. We need to be doing this too. We need to be less afraid of getting hurt or getting dirty or being weird, and we need to just experience life and allow our bodies to develop through challenges and creativity. Dry mud is a gross feeling, yeah. And some kids are different. Some kids are more sensitive, like physically, like sensation-wise, to the touch and tactile experiences than other kids. Some are more sensitive to sounds or to colors and sights and lights. Everyone's different. Like, we have our two kids, right? My boyfriend's two kids. And when we go to the beach, one doesn't really like sand that much. Like, he's okay, right? He's not like the whole time like, meh. But he doesn't really like it to be all over him. He doesn't like if his brother throws it at him. He likes to be in the water. He likes a lot of water play. Water play is another thing she talks about. Great tactile experience to play with water and turn, you know, to see dry dirt or sand and then turn it into mud and kind of be able to create and mold it. You know, just like learning, like almost physics, right? You're learning a lot from these experiences and you're feeling it a lot. Yeah, throws it at him. Yeah. You know, they like make like the mud cakes, you know, and they just chuck them at each other, except really it's just one kid chucking them at the other kid and the other kid going, stop! But like the one kid, like, okay, we're about ready to go, right? We're gonna head home from the beach. Everybody rinse off. The one kid like probably doesn't even need to rinse off. He's got like a normal amount of sand on his feet, like we all do from being at the beach. The other kid literally like his head, like he is a sand person now. Like his hair is sand, his ears are sand, like there's like sand in his mouth. There's just sand. Like his whole body is sand. Like I've literally seen him multiple times lay down in the sand and just like roll around in it. Now to me, I'm like, oh my God, I would hate that. Like I do not want that much sand in my life. I love the beach, but I do not want it to be like in every crevice of my body. I don't like the rough feeling. My skin is kind of soft and sensitive too, kind of like one of the boys. But the other one is like, he likes that rough, like sand. It's like, it's input, right? It makes him feel good. And he can create, he can be creative, and they can run around and splash and play and build. And there's like so much. They don't even barely need toys there. Like just the beach itself is a playground, you know? So places like that, woods, fields, places where there's really no like rules, right? You, as long as I can see you, you can see me, we're good. Do whatever you want. I don't care. And then you can provide, so she talks about how you can provide, if you want it to be like a playground or even for your kids, provide things they can play with. So like a sand pit, you know, or something, like if you don't have a beach, or like logs, like fallen down logs, like something they call tree cookies, which is like slices of tree trunks. So like think of like just a slice of a tree trunk. It looks like a big cookie, a tree cookie. I love that word. So tree cookies and like sticks and branches, things that they can use and move around and build with if they want. And smaller loose parts like seashells and rocks and pebbles. Now, if they're very little, you don't want them, you know, you don't want anything that's a choking hazard, because babies put everything in their mouths, and that's okay. It's okay if they get a little dirt or sand in their mouth, as long as there's no like rocks that could potentially, you know, choke them. But if they get a little dirt in their mouth, like they're more often than not, they're gonna be like, I don't like that. You know, they're just experiencing, they're seeing, is this food? Oh, no, not food. Okay, great, good to know. Moving on. She talks about babies. Like babies can be outside. She's like, you know, you can put a blanket down or something, but you don't even really need to. You put your baby in the grass. Like, you know, you always check your kids for ticks or whatever. You know, in your area, you might have different kinds of bugs or animals or you know, plants that you have to watch out for. You know, being able to identify poison ivy and thorns. You know, you don't want to like put your baby in a pricker bush, but you know, use common sense. If it's just like the grass in your backyard, you know, probably put your baby in it, and they can feel the grass and they can look at bugs, and it actually stimulates them to want to lift their head more and look around and look up at the sky and see the birds, and they hear the birds, and there's just, but it's not too much, right? It's not an overwhelming sensory experience for really any age. Yeah, so you have like the large parts, which help to build strength. So as the kids are like lugging around branches and sticks and logs and boulders and bricks and things that are heavier, they're building strength, right? And they're like working together, and they can build structures. But then and that's gross motor skills. So they're climbing up onto a big boulder and jumping off of it, right? Gross motor skills, jumping, climbing. And then fine motor skills, handling things like, even if you want to make like necklaces outside instead of doing it inside, go outside and do it. There's a lot of things that the kids like to play with that are kind of messy. They'd be better outside anyway than inside. Why are we always playing with things on the kitchen table? Like, let's go outside in the backyard and play with this like sand art thing that we're doing, because then nobody cares about getting sand. Like, because we're always like, oh, careful, we don't want sand like everywhere in the house. Like, why are we even in the house? What are we doing? That's what I want to know. Like, why are we inside? And she talks about, you know, if you do have to be inside, maybe it's like freezing cold outside, you know, and you have to be inside, different places that you can go, like children's museums where they can do hands-on experiments and experiences. I think like indoor plants, I forget some of the things that she talks about, but in chapter 9, which is the last chapter of the book, she gives a lot of ideas for it kind of sums up the whole book and gives a lot of ideas. So I'm going to just touch on them really quick. Remember that independence now equals safer children in the long run. So by restricting your kids and keeping them from becoming independent, that makes them more likely, more prone to injury and to being unsafe. Now, another thing is your connective tissue, your joints, your muscles, your tendons. Laura, hi, grass rash. You know, stretching your body, moving your body is important. Moving and pulling and stretching on connective tissue keeps it flexible and elastic and prevents injury. So if your kid is sitting all day or laying all day, and now this, again, implications are obvious for adults. If you're not pulling on your connective tissue and giving it some resistance here and there throughout your day, every day, hopefully, you are going to be more prone to injury, like tearing one of those connective tissues, because you're not stretching it, you're not moving it, it's not flexible, it's not ready to be pressed. So if it gets pressed accidentally, you're actually more likely to get hurt. Oh my God, Hayden, let's hear it. What crazy news did you get? Excuse me. It says start simple. Don't do anything you're not comfortable with. Start with small steps by encouraging independence. Things like staying outside while the kids play and allowing them to roam a little farther each time are strategies I discussed in more detail in this chapter. Okay. Observe and practice. Have your child prove that they can handle walking or biking to the neighbor's house, right? Where you can like basically watch them do it, but it's more for you than for them to realize, like, especially at a certain age, right? Your 2-year-old is not going to go down to the neighbor's house, but your 10-year-old probably is very capable of doing that. So what are you afraid of? Like, why are you preventing your child's independence and driving yourself crazy? Because then you have to like go bring them down there and then hang around and wait and coordinate all this stuff when it's like 4 houses down. Like, just let them walk or bike. It's going to be okay. But you can actually, so there's actually 2, I think, Harvard-trained, I don't know if they were doctors or what, but they were like extremely intelligent people. They had a child, or, you know, at least one child, or 2 children. I don't know what exactly the story. She talks about it in here. And the kids were they went to their playground in their neighborhood. So they went to the playground alone, and they came home, and the police saw them walking to or from on their own. They were like, I think one was 8 and one was 10. And the police, they found these parents or they at least accused them of being, like negligence of their kids, you know? And it's like, dude, my sister used to walk me to and from school. It was far. And she was like, she was 12. Okay, so she was 12 and I was 5 years old. And me and her would walk to and from school every day together. No police were like, this is negligence or anything. Like, that's just the way it was. And that's not that long ago. I mean, I'm almost 30. I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm talking about back in the day. I mean, this was 25 years ago. It's crazy, like, the things now. It's like these Harvard, they're like, it's important for our kids to be independent and free, and it's good for their development because they have to be responsible. When parents and adults are around, kids don't feel like they have to be responsible because the adults will be. So they don't take that role. They don't man up. Okay, man up's not the right word. They don't own up to the responsibility. They're like, whatever. We're the kids. We're the irresponsible ones. We do whatever I want, and the parents take care of all the safety stuff. But when you tell a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old or whatever, all right, you're in charge of your younger brother. You guys can go down to the park, come back in, 3 hours, whatever. At this point in this day and age, they probably have a cell phone, right? Call me if you have any problems. I'll call you. Answer your phone if I call you. Whatever rules and boundaries you want to have. That makes them feel like they feel that pressure, right? Okay, I'm in charge. I'm getting trusted with some freedom, and always let your kids know, right? If they prove that they cannot be trusted, if they do something that's not trustworthy, then the restrictions come back and the freedoms go away. And, this is consequences. This is how the world works, really, I think, Oh my God. What? Person up. Person up. Frank knows. Exactly. Rise to the occasion. I'm down for that, yes. What age do you think kids should have cell phones? Curious. Well, I thought that our kids were too young. I don't really want to say, how old they are, because I just get a little paranoid about private information out there on the internet. But I think that at this point, kids can pretty much have them like once they're in school. Our kids seem to manage having them just fine. They're not like constantly on them. They don't use them they just watch YouTube videos of people that play Fortnite primarily and Minecraft and like silly like pranks and stuff like they watch like kid-friendly YouTube videos sometimes. But it's really, really awesome to be able to FaceTime them, or to be able, where they have their own phone that they can use to call any of their parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or cousins or whatever family anytime that they want. That's been really nice, right? They don't have to like go use mommy or daddy's phone, and maybe mommy or daddy's using the phone. So, with the divorce too, it's actually been really nice. It's nice to have that. And I don't know. It's actually fine. At first I was like, they're too young. This is crazy. But I think I was proven wrong on that one. Cell phone and smartphone filled with apps. Yeah, they have apps. They play games on there too, but they don't, like, it's not that much. They prefer video games, like their Nintendo Switch. They play that a lot. They really like video games. So that's more of an, I would say, a potential issue. But they do get outside for a few hours every day, at least 2 to 3 hours every day. They do outside stuff, and right now they're really they're having really great experience with the program they're currently enrolled in. With just the way that they yeah, I know, Berto. It seems like the program they're in, the woman that runs it is like very similar to this woman. It seems like she has a lot of these same values. They spend most of their time outside in this program, and they do a lot of unrestricted play. There's actually like farm animals like nearby that they get to go kind of like up to the fence and kind of check out, and they like made names for the animals. You know, it's like, it's really, I like that. I really like the experience they're having now. So even though they play video games a lot when they're home, they do get at least the recommended minimum 2 to 3 hours of outdoor play. I didn't see it, Hayden. You're right. I did not see it. Let's see. Yeah, I got a phone when I was 13, but that was a long time ago, too. Good to see you, too, Nelson. Hi. Hayden. Oh, thank you, Laura. Me, too. I loved this. You're going to Disney World? Oh, in Florida? What? When? Hi, Brad. All right, so what other things are on here? Set clear guidelines. Be specific on when you want your child home, how far they're allowed to go away from the house, whether or not you want them to check in with you and how often, that kind of stuff. Realizing that children need to experience boredom, letting them daydream, letting go of preconceived notion. If your children are walking around aimlessly, let them. If they're seated and quietly looking at something, let them. Sometimes what we have in mind as play looks different than what children consider play. They need time to explore and think before they get into more creative types of play. The calendar thing, you know, opening up their calendar, giving them space. It's really hard to do. It says we like to be there every moment of their life to capture every milestone and every new skill. We don't want to miss out, but they need their own space. They benefit from time alone to reflect on life, to play, and to test out different theories without a parent hovering over their shoulder, observing their every move. They need a break from being watched. Loosen the reins a little and step back. Allow freedom to happen. It's difficult, but you can do it. Start a garden. Trim the bushes. So they said, like, if you go, like, you trim the bushes, and then you can, like, all those little pieces that came off the bushes, the kids can play with. Rake leaves. You know, jumping into leaves is something a lot of kids like to do. Build something together. This is cool. Have your child help research the play equipment they'd like in the yard and then build it together. So this was another thing she had said. Have, like, instead of just having one play structure in your yard, have like smaller structures throughout the yard to like promote them to move around the yard rather than just like they go in the yard and they play on that one like swing set. You know, like most kids have like the swing set, like one big structure in the yard, and then they don't really play in the rest of the yard. That's like if they go outside to play, they're like on that thing. They're gonna get, you know, they use it a lot. They're probably going to get kind of like, yeah, they've played it. It's to encourage them to kind of move throughout the yard, and then rotating out those loose parts like the bricks and the tires and the branches and the seashells or whatever you have out there, masks for like creative, like imaginary play. They can pretend to be, you know, someone else, costumes and stuff, different things to have out there. And then you rotate out different stuff to keep them. That's a good way to keep them entertained, but it's not overwhelming. And you don't tell them when you switch out the parts, and you don't tell them what the parts are to be used for. You just kind of like put them out different times, rotate them, change things, and let them discover them, because that's part of it. They find it, and then it's like it's their thing, right? They're like, ooh, and then they can decide what to do with them. You know, like she was talking about how she sees kids like basically build like fake stores, and then like leaves or acorns or pine cones become like the currency. You know what I mean? It's like one pine cone for like this rock or whatever. Like pretty cool stuff how kids can create stuff like that. Hi, Noah. Early November. Nice. Well, that's fun. If you're into that kind of thing, which you are. It says bring a smaller project outside. So bring something out like whatever you're working on, some kind of maybe a book that you're reading or something. So you can be out there and be present, but you're like doing your own thing. So you're not, I've noticed this sometimes with Ed, he's like, I think we should leave soon because he's bored, right? He's done all the work he can do remotely, and now he's like, I want to go home, like, and the kids are still having fun outside. So make sure you have something to keep yourself preoccupied so that they get their, like, they'll let you know when they've had enough. Still, like, right, hats, protective clothing, sunscreen, you know what I mean? You don't want, like, you're not just like willy-nilly like letting your kids get sunburnt or whatever, you know. Make sure that they're drinking water when they're out there. Like, there's still things they need, the adults. It's, what do they call this? This is a therapeutic thing where it's like you are there to support the kid as much as they need it. Not as much as you want to, probably, but like let them try, and then if they're really struggling, they're going to potentially give up and not want to try this anymore, you give them just enough support and assistance to get them past that one. Like for me, with one of the kids, he can make his own tuna sandwiches, but he has a hard time opening the can. So I open the can for him. That's the only thing that I do. I think I open it and I drain the juice out of it. But then everything else he does himself. He gets the tuna out of there and he mixes it with the mayonnaise and he puts it on the bread and he does all that stuff. There's like little things, right? So he can't quite, like, he doesn't quite have the dexterity and strength, like that fine motor ability to really pop open and pull back the can. So he tries each time, and if he can't do it, then I do it. He recently can like open a soda can, you know, lift it up and kind of figure that out. So it's just baby steps, right? They learn things pretty quickly too. You do a lot of dangerous stuff, you should wear protective gear. Yeah, you probably should. If near water, make sure you stay close, because that's a real threat, is drowning for kids, you know. Other kids, having them play with other kids. I know we're in a pandemic, but like in general, right, when you're not in a pandemic, having other kids is a really great way, especially of different ages, because the older kids will kind of take care of the younger kids. And I see this happen with the kids right now. Like they're around like some younger kids and they take care of them and they love them. Like, it teaches them responsibility, and it actually helps them to learn concepts when they explain it to younger kids. I remember they had some of their younger cousins when we were in Wildwood, and he was like, he's like, oh yeah, he really likes the seagulls, and you know, like kind of like they experience the world through like a baby's eyes, and they're like, oh, they just love that. It's really cool. Kids are really fascinating. So other kids, teaching them navigation skills. I've been trying to do this when we take walks around our neighborhood. I'll ask them. One of them has a really good sense of direction and he can navigate quite instinctively or whatever. He just does. The other one, not so much. So I'll ask him, which way do we go now? Which way do we go to get to our house? Where are we going to go? Where are we? You know, like, where do we go? And so that he can kind of like start to learn and to start to observe. And then when we go to the beach or places where we're giving them a little bit more freedom, we kind of show them like where we're located on the beach, key on like major landmarks. Okay, so here's this, you know, lifeguard if you really need somebody. That's like the authority there. You know, you're giving them the tools they need and then trusting them to use them and keeping a soft eye on them, right? You're not like following them around everywhere at the beach, but you're keeping an eye, especially when they're near the water, and maybe even like getting a little closer when they're near the water, especially if they're little. Just shout at them until they open the can. Yes, exactly, Cher. Yeah, they haven't been ruined. You know, teaching them about traffic signs. I actually teach the kids about like how to drive and stuff, like what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to stop. You know, do you see what does that sign mean? You know, little things like that I think is important, because eventually they are going to be driving and they're going to need to know this stuff. And they find it interesting because it's adult stuff. They like to learn adult stuff. Like, they like to know like what the rules of the road are and like what to do, you know, because it makes them feel bigger. Determine clear boundaries. Consider a walkie-talkie. You know, maybe a cell phone is probably fine, but you know, you can have them come home at certain like meal times. Come home, that's like a check-in time. You know, come home to eat lunch. Like if it's a weekend, they're playing at the neighbor's house. Like, all right, we'll come home for lunch, so that you kind of check in, see how everything's going, get an update, and then they can go back until dinner or something. Give them, like, if they are going to be going somewhere, make sure you pack them snacks and water and stuff so that they stay fueled and hydrated, because kids, a lot of times when they are having fun playing, they don't think about drinking water. But they know, like I've seen, actually at a birthday party we were at really recently, I heard one of the kids go, I lost my breath, I need water. He had been running around for like 2 hours, you know, and then he was just like, oh my God, I can't breathe, I need water. You realize like yeah, I'm drying up over here. So teach your child street smarts, what places to avoid and why, when to talk to strangers, if help from a stranger is needed, who is the best person to look for, if your child gets lost, what they should do, if they're in trouble, what they should do, if they get hurt, what they should do, to never get in a car or go anywhere with a stranger, you know, basic stuff. I'm drying up over here. Kids to drive, that's early, isn't it? Oh, geez. Kangen water? I have not. No, I haven't. I'm not like, they don't drive the car, but I tell them, like, you know, what does this mean? Like, I ask them, like, what does yellow light mean? You know, what does this sign mean? Like a yield, right? So say I'm like merging, what exit do we get off of? Like, can you tell where we are? Which way do we go to get home? Like, even in the car, because that's something I wish that my mom did with me, because I have a terrible sense of direction. Like, I really struggle with it. So helping them to develop that is just something else. And that's what parenting is, right? We like think about the things we wish our parents did differently, and then we do those things. And then our kids will have the same experience where they're going to be like, my parents messed up on all these things and I'm going to do better. And that's great. Let's just keep getting better, right? The street smarts, like fights. Well, kind of, you know? Well, yeah, like street smart would be like able to carry your own on the streets, right? So if you live in a dangerous area, that might be have a different meaning than people who live in a more safe area. Like, we live in a pretty safe area. It's not like the kids need to like know how to like what to do if they encounter a gang or something. Like, all right, Karen, let's hear it. So this is like, go with them at first. If you're in the woods, it says pick up sticks to keep yourself occupied. It'll help clear the floor of the whatever paths and areas in the woods that you're in, and it'll help keep you occupied so you're not hovering over your kids. We noticed that, me and Ed noticed that there was like a couple helicopter parents at the party we were at. It was like a big space. It was outside, and the kids could run around freely, and they were taking up the full space. It was a beautiful thing to see. They were like over here and over here and over here, and there's like, especially like at least one parent that literally is just walking, like following them there and following them there, and I'm like, you don't need to do that. Like, we're not, like, it wasn't that big of a space, right? There was no way for them to like go out of it. It's like fenced in, and it's like a giant group of kids. Like, there's enough kids there that like if somebody got hurt, the rest of the kids would tell us, you know. There's like tons of parents around and stuff. It's just really interesting how people's anxiety, like, it's easy to see that sometimes they're just like watching their kids. Like, now, are they just interested and curious? Are they maybe antisocial? They don't want to talk to the other parents, so they're just like trying to look busy. You know, it might not be helicopter parenting, but it looked like that, you know, if they encounter a gang. So this book is actually a parenting book, but I think the implications are clear for adults as well. To get outside, feel the grass on your feet. She talks about that, like when we're barefoot in the grass and uneven ground, the feedback of the grass and the dirt and whatever we feel to the plantar side of our feet, the bottom of our foot, it takes in a lot of important information. It helps to like strengthen the foot, the ankle. It's good for preventing flat foot. So shoes are actually, a lot of people find like shoes are something that causes a lot of the issues that we have physically. So the more we can not be wearing shoes and using our actual foot muscles, the better. You know, if you're walking the streets and there might be broken glass, you want to have shoes on. But if you're like in the woods, yeah, you might get a splinter, but be prepared, right? Have some tweezers, have like a little pack you bring when you go to the woods that has snacks and drinks and like a first aid kit with tweezers in it in case somebody gets a splinter. I mean, that's really like, if I think about being outside, I'm like, you know, you might get a scrape, right? So you can have like a little alcohol wipe. And what she said I thought was interesting. She's like, you only put a Band-Aid on something that's actually bleeding. If it's a scrape or something, if it's not actually bleeding, it's fine. She's like, just clean it and let it heal. I'm like, wow. It's like, one of our kids just likes to have Band-Aids on his boo-boos. Like, he'll be like, can you put a Band-Aid on it? And so I just put it on, even though it's not really necessary. But you have flat feet, Noah? Yeah, well, try yoga is really, I think, really good for developing foot strength. So if you push down into your big toe and that like mound of your big toe, like, I'm wearing a dress, so I'm gonna try not to show my undies here, but like this part, you know, like, so this part and this part, if you kind of like you can see how, like, you know, if you want to flex this muscle here, you kind of like bend your foot. So you kind of like press that part down when you're standing up, press that part down into the ground and kind of like just focus on engaging these muscles here. And you can actually reverse or lessen flat foot at least a little bit by strengthening the muscles of the arch of the feet. Alcohol, what in the world? He always had to have a Band-Aid on. That's facts. Oh, kids are so funny. It's really cool how they're all different from each other too, you know? Allow for roaming. As children become more and more independent and mature with age and competence, gradually give them more space. Consider allowing them to go past your line of vision while still listening for voices, and check in on them once in a while without them knowing. Explore with friends, establish physical boundaries, especially in the woods. It can be easy to get lost in the woods, especially if it's a big wooded area. So you could even, she even said you can bring out into the woods like some kind of like colored scarf or something, right? Wrap it around certain trees, like create boundaries and places where people know, okay, this tree or this marker, I go out this way or something, just in case, you know, especially as your kids get older, like if they're teenagers and they go like play in the woods with their friends, you know, hopefully at some point you're going to stop like watching your kids and being with them every time they play or do something. So, you know, that can help them to kind of navigate and know their way around. Or certain trees, right? Even just distinctive looking trees or rocks or something, or like a creek or something like that. You never had a Band-Aid on? What the heck? Wubba-lubba-dub-dub-dub. What's up? That was so helpful. You're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure. Outside of school, they made you wear Band-Aids? What? Point out hazardous plants and animals. So that's really like the one thing you have to do for this, right? Most of this stuff is like, just go outside. You know, it's really not hard. It doesn't take a lot of preparation or overhead costs. But you'd probably, if you're like me, you might not be that well versed or educated on the hazardous plants and animals in your area. So you just do a little research, you know, figure out how to identify poison ivy and where it might be and how to maybe get rid of it or to avoid it. If you have like poisonous snakes or insects in your area, how to identify them, where they typically reside, you know. Listen, a kid's not, unless they're allergic, a kid's not going to die by getting stung by a bee. You know, or even like a scorpion, which is, I heard, like a horrible, painful sting. But these things happen, right? We get pooped on by birds, or we get a scrape or a cut or a bruise from being outside, and that's okay. This is what strengthens us and makes us more resilient. You can't wait to use it for your kids? Yay, share. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Giving them time. So it says you can have them play outside in the morning before school. You can have them before they have to do their homework or anything, let them play outside after school. Let them decompress from the craziness that is school. Like, have them go outside. Make time on the weekends to allow for unrestricted free play outside. Rethink recess. It even says, like, reach out to your schools and ask them if there's a way to get more recess time, because it really, really helps kids to develop important skills, social skills, emotional skills, and physical skills that help them to be better inside the classroom. Find like-minded parents. The environment, play near a stream, play at the beach, play in the woods, play near mud puddles. For the loose parts, it says avoid plastic or childlike objects. They usually have like one type of play, right? So if it's like a fake cup, it's kind of like, I mean, even cups are probably fine though, because you can use them to scoop and different things. So, but like, you know, like the fake kitchen sets, like it's like that is something, it's like, this is a kitchen, this is for cooking, this is for food. It's not necessarily like super creative, like something like sticks and seashells and rocks. Like these don't have like obvious uses, so kids will get more creative when playing with them. A couch on your head, exactly. Why? Offer building items, planks of wood, tires, cut pieces of tubing, tree cookies, pieces of fabric like sheets, sticks often provide a foundation for imaginary play. Pots, pans, shells, baskets. They say you can get stuff like that at garage sales, like just old crappy pans and stuff that they can use outside. Change up the loose parts, and yeah, keep quiet, don't say anything about the loose parts. I talked about that. stimulating and simple equipment. So equipment that they can use to get their bodies going, but is simple. So even monkey bars, so like kids aren't allowed to like climb on top of the monkey bars. That's another thing that they're more restricted on now, that they say is like really important for kids to learn how to do. It's important balance. And kids like to hang upside down on monkey bars too, and they might not be allowed to do that. So sand pit, sand and dirt are always good to have around to encourage healthy sensory play. Having a well pump nearby is another fun idea to foster creative mud and water exploration. Children not only love pumping water into containers of different sizes, but when a water source is placed by sand, they often mix the two substances to make creative concoctions like mud soup and mud cakes. Power tools. Yeah, definitely different ideas. I think that's it. Yeah, so this is a pretty good book. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward and clear, and I really like it. It inspired me to get outside more often, balanced and barefoot, and to definitely make sure that I am giving my kids freedom when they're outside and making sure that I explain to them why it's important for them to be outside and play. And I realize that when there's other kids around, they're much more likely to want to do it. So I need to reach out to some of the neighbor parents probably a little bit. But that's it. That is my review and recap of Balanced and Barefoot by Angela Hanscom. I hope you enjoyed it. I do like to read a lot of different books, as you can see there. I do reviews here on my YouTube and Periscope channels, and I also write up these reviews, which I send out in an email 3 times a year. So once every 4 months, I send out an email that summarizes all the books that I've read over the past 4 months. So if you don't want to sit here for my hour and 15-minute long live stream where I'm interacting with the chat and sometimes we get off on a tangent, you can just read a couple paragraphs summary of each book along with a link to the book, and it's totally free. So you can sign up totally free on my website, nextjuice.com. And like I said, I only email you once every 4 months. So I'm not going to overwhelm your inbox or try to sell you anything. It's just something I do that I know is really valuable. I like doing it, and it's something I like to teach. So I just want to share it with you guys. So you can sign up on the website there so that you can get that. And I hope to see you for tomorrow's stream. I go live every single day, 7 days a week, here on Periscope, also on my Twitch channel, where I'm going to go live now doing some gaming. So maybe you guys will come play with me. And I think that's it. Remember, the implications are just as powerful and strong for adults. If you want to build up your own strength, get out there and climb a tree, play in the sand, get dirty, get risky, have some fun. You'll be there, Noah, on Twitch? Yes. Hi, Matt. Take your mask off. Hello, what's up? Kieran, thank you for the super hearts. Thank you so much. Hi, Ed. Yeah, so I did my first ever 12-hour stream on Twitch yesterday. It was a great success. We had our first ever hype train, which maxed out. We maxed out the hype train, which was amazing. It's so exciting. Ed was our train conductor, so he has the little train badge now. And it was just a lot of fun. The time flew by. I wore 13 different costumes in the 12-hour period. I had a lot of fun. We played Fortnite. We played Fall Guys. We just had a great time hanging out. It was really, really fun. Once every 3 months and 3 weeks, and it's a deal. Basically the same thing. So my next email goes out in about a month for the book review. So it'll have this one on it. What's the book I read before this? I don't know. Check out my playlist on YouTube. I have a whole playlist with all my book reviews on there. So you can check that out. And the next book I'm going to be reading is one that I received as a gift from my British friend Frankie, which is called Give and Take by Adam Grant, A Revolutionary Approach to Success. I'm excited about this one. I haven't started it yet, but that's the next one on my list. And school starts up for me in about 1 week. So if you want to support my schooling, I do study psychology, things like this and other things as well, then you can go to my link, nextjuice.com, and go to the support page. My GoFundMe is on there with all the money I've spent so far on getting my associate's degree and now starting my bachelor's degree program in 1 week. So excited. I cannot wait to be a clinical mental health counselor. Thank you guys, everyone who makes it possible and helps me on this journey. Thank you, Imp and Kieran and Mark and Banana for the Super Hearts. Kieran, top contributor of Super Hearts this broadcast. I do shout out the top Super Heart contributors of every single broadcast throughout the month at the end of the month, which is only a week away. So sometimes in the next 2 weeks, I'll be shouting out Kieran for this broadcast and all of our other top contributors from the month of August. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this stream as much as I enjoyed doing it for you. And I hope to see you guys over on Twitch in just a little while where we'll be playing some Fortnite, maybe some Fall Guys. Smitty, thank you for the super hearts. I love you guys so much. Remember, you are worthy of being loved and feeling comfortable in your own skin. I I hope you guys found some value in this stream tonight, and I'll see you over on Twitch and back again tomorrow on Periscope. This has been a moment in time with Taylor. Hope to see you guys on the next juice. Bye. Bye, Ed. Bye, Mark. Bye, Michael. Bye, Laura. Bye, Cher. Bye, Rody. Bye.